Okay, we're back at it. For those of you who have followed me in the past, you might know that I'm not the most tech-savvy person in the world, and I didn't realize that the video ran out the last time. And I had already done this next step, so I'm just going to recap what I did. When you have your platform together, everything under this part of the second tier is essentially wasted area. What I like to do is trace your upper tier, and then I use my scroll saw again. I cut out a basic perimeter. So essentially, when these stack back on top of each other, the piece that I cut out from the bottom is just about enough to make a third level if I really wanted to do that. And actually, it may end up being that because it looks like it's big enough to hold a building. So I can put a building here and building here. Don't be afraid to change your layout as you go. You know, things change, things improve. If you draw it on paper, it doesn't always end up that way. So just go with the flow. And this, like I said, this actually might end up being a top layer. So basically what we're at now, got the levels together, got our water laid out where it's going to go. Next thing we need to do is we're gonna in the future have a demonstration on how to create steps. So you need to go through and pick a couple of areas on your platform where you're going to want to put the steps. I will generally leave about 3 or 4 inches. This is where your rulers will come in. It doesn't have to be an exact measurement. So like on here, I'm just going to mark up here and mark up here and write step on it. And then I need to get up onto my second level as well, so I'm just going to probably make a corner one here. So figure out where you want to go with these. So sometimes steps can be difficult, sometimes they can go very easy. Once you get practicing, they go very easy. If you do a step in the middle of your platform, you're going to be dealing with the side walls. If you go off of a corner, you don't have to worry so much about the sidewalls. It's just going to step down to the next level. So, you know, just kind of keep that in mind when you plan where your steps are going to go. When you lay yours out, give it a top step and a bottom step because you want to be able to walk up from here to here and here to here. Okay? So, from there, what we're going to do is start creating the rock border. With my scrap piece of foam here, this doesn't have to be anything perfect. I drive through Pennsylvania quite often, and if you look at the mountains there, none of it's perfect. So if you make a mistake, it's not going to be a problem because the rocks aren't perfect anyway. Basically, I'm going to show you with a knife first. I like using the hot wire tools, and I'm going to use those for my base. But just to give you an example onto here. Essentially, what you need to do is just carve into the foam and create like a V-notch. Might have to go over the cut a couple times if you didn't get deep enough. And there's a slot. And then just repeat the process. And you can probably break those out once they get deep enough. You can just cut those and break them out of there. There you go. Now remember, they don't all have to be vertical lines. You can cut through at an angle, and that'll give it kind of a ledge. Just be patient, and the design will come to you. And just keep hacking away at it until you're happy with where it goes. This is going to go all the way around your border. Again, I like to use my hot wire tools. And again, make sure that you have it ventilated. I've got the windows up and stuff open now, but I'm just trying to make it so you guys can hear me. One thing to keep in mind when you're using your hot wire tools, it's always a good idea to have a rag on hand. When the foam gets onto the blade, it starts to melt, and then you'll see the fumes start coming up. So if you have a rag on hand, you can gently wipe the excess material off of that, and it reduces the amount of fumes that go up. So essentially what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start cutting my stones out. It's the same process as with the knife, except for the wire cutter is so much easier to use. You basically put it in and get it out. Now with the wire being wide, you don't have to make the double cut. It automatically does it for you. So if you pull this thing down, you're creating your notches with one swoop instead of two with the X-Acto knives. And you just kind of go all the way around. A lot of times when I'm creating my rocks, I'll make a bunch of the vertical lines all through it. And then I'll go back through and I'll go at an angle and make ledges. And it gives it starts to give it shape. Hopefully you guys can see that. And just keep going through it. This doesn't have to be perfect. Again, when you're using your wire tools, don't be afraid to go in and twist the tool around. It just gives it shape. And then like on here, I have a ridge hanging out. You can create more on that if you want to. And basically just go all the way around the whole platform doing that. When you get to where your steps are going to be, just kind of stop there for now. We'll work on steps in the future. So for now, I'm just going to go through and carve out the rest of my stones, and then I'll show you where I'm at when I get done with that.